You think you need more time, more motivation, more clarity, but what you really need is direction, a decision, a line in the sand that says, I won't live another week like this. Because time isn't your problem. You've had time. You've had windows of opportunity. You've had good intentions. But direction? That's what's been missing. Most people live by default, not by design. They move through the week, reacting, improvising, hoping, but never leading. And when you live like that long enough, you start to forget who you are. You settle. You drift. You tolerate things that once made you uncomfortable. And slowly, almost without noticing, you begin to disappear. Not from the world, but from yourself. You stop doing what matters. You stop acting with conviction. And the person staring back in the mirror starts to feel like a stranger. But here's the truth most people won't tell you. You don't need years to turn this around. You don't need a master plan. You don't need to read another book or wait for a sign. You need 1 week, 7 days, 7 days of clarity, discipline, and deliberate action. That's enough to break patterns, reclaim your time, redefine your energy, and become someone even you don't recognize anymore. Not because you're faking it, but because, for the first time, you're showing up with intention. This is not about becoming someone else. It's about no longer betraying yourself. You're not here to be perfect. You're here to take back control, to reset your rhythm, to walk differently, think differently, lead differently. Because when you live 7 days with direction, you activate something most people never access. Personal power. Not hype, not noise, not short bursts of motivation that fade the next morning, but real, grounded, identity-level change. That's what this week is about. This is your opportunity to close the chapter on a version of you that stopped growing, that got stuck in maintenance mode, that forgot what forward even feels like. And let's be clear, you're not starting from zero. You've already survived enough, learned enough, failed enough to know what no longer works. Now you lead. Now you stop negotiating with fear, with doubt, with that voice that says, maybe next time. This is the time. You don't need permission. You don't need perfect circumstances. You don't need everything figured out. You need one thing: commitment. 7 days. No distractions. No negotiations. Just forward. And by the end of these 7 days, you won't just feel different. You'll behave differently. Because your actions will come from a different place. Not survival, but direction. Each day from now on will build on this one. A blueprint to reset your focus, discipline your time, break the patterns that have kept you small, and rebuild your identity with clarity and strength. You won't do this by accident. You'll do it on purpose, and you'll be amazed how fast change begins when you stop living on autopilot. So take one breath right now, and let this be the moment you stop postponing your potential. You're not just watching a video. You're stepping into a different relationship with yourself. That's what this is about. And over the next 7 days, you'll be guided step by step to reclaim your attention, your decisions, your energy, and your voice. This is not theory. It's strategy. It's direction. It's self-leadership in motion. Are you ready? Because once you commit, once you decide, the version of you that's been stuck has no more control. You're taking the lead now, and the rest of the world will have no choice but to notice. It starts today, and it starts with you. You want to change your life in 1 week? Start with the first hour of your day. Not tomorrow, not next month, today. Because that first hour, it's not just time on a clock. It's the foundation of who you're becoming. Most people wake up in reaction. They check their phones. They scroll. They absorb everyone else's agenda before they've even remembered their own. And they wonder why their life feels out of control, why they feel behind before the day even begins. But here's the truth. The way you start your day is the way you start your life. It's the first moment your brain receives instructions. And every day, whether you realize it or not, you're training it for something. So the question is, what are you training for? Distraction or direction? Reactivity or responsibility? Because the first hour isn't just a window of time. It's a statement. It tells your mind, your body, your identity. This is who we are today. This is how we show up. And if you don't make that choice consciously, it will be made for you. This week, you stop surrendering that first hour. You reclaim it. You design it. You lead it. No more waking up into chaos. No more drifting into your day. This is where your leadership begins. So what does it look like? Not some complicated routine with 20 steps. Just a clear, grounded protocol that reminds you. You are in control. Start here. Don't wait for your phone to tell you what matters. Don't wake up into someone else's noise. Wake up like you have a mission, because you do. Before anything else, remind your body that it's alive. Drink water. Stretch or move, even if it's just for 5 minutes. Take 3 slow, deep breaths. This isn't fitness. It's presence. It's an anchor. Write it down. Not a to-do list, just one clear intention. What is this day really about? What will make it meaningful? Even one line is enough. Today I lead with clarity. Today I do what I said I would. Today I protect my peace. You're not listing tasks. You're setting direction. Because when you live with direction, you stop wasting energy on everything that doesn't matter. Say it out loud. Say who you're becoming. Say what matters. Don't wait for confidence to show up. Speak it into existence. You don't need to believe it fully. You just need to decide it's your direction. Now, notice what's not here. No phone. No comparison. No rush. No reaction. Because you're not just building a productive day. You're building identity. When you win the first hour, you're telling your brain, I show up with clarity. I choose how this day goes. I lead myself first. And from that mindset, everything changes. You make better decisions. You move with purpose. You speak with alignment. That's what people feel. That's what makes you start becoming unrecognizable. Not because your face changed, but because your energy did. Most people don't realize the power of how they begin. They think mornings are a blur, a routine, a rush. But in truth, they are a declaration. And that declaration either sets the tone for alignment or autopilot. So let's be honest. What's your current first hour saying? Is it saying, I lead my life? Or I react to everything? Is it calm and focused? Or fragmented and noisy? This week, you make the shift. Not by chance. Not when it feels convenient. But every single day, starting now. Because the consistency of your morning becomes the consistency of your mindset. Don't let the world enter before you do. Protect your space. Protect your direction. Protect the version of you you're working to build. If you own this hour, you'll start to notice something. You walk differently. You breathe differently. You respond, not react. You think clearly, not anxiously. And others will notice too. Not because you told them, but because your presence will speak first. Commanding your morning isn't a hack. It's not trendy. It's not optional. It's what self-leadership looks like, in its simplest, rawest form. If you can't lead the first hour, how will you lead a day, a team, a family, a vision? That leadership begins with the decision. You make the moment your eyes open. So don't rush through it. Don't numb it. Don't waste it. Master it. Not with perfection, but with presence. You won't get this right every time. But that's not the point. The point is that now, you're no longer unconscious. You're no longer reactive. You're building something. And it begins with the space. Where most people surrender. You're claiming it back. And that's where transformation starts. You don't need to fix your whole life this week. You don't need to reinvent everything. You just need to break one loop. Interrupt one behavior. That keeps pulling you back to the version of yourself you've already outgrown. Because real transformation doesn't begin with what you add. It begins with what you stop tolerating. There's something in your day right now, a habit, a pattern, a choice, that quietly chips away at your self-respect. Maybe it's the way you avoid discomfort. Maybe it's the way you delay what matters. Maybe it's what you consume, what you repeat, what you excuse. It doesn't scream. It whispers. But it's there. And you know exactly what it is. It's not complicated. It's not even hidden. You just haven't made the decision to remove it. But this week, you do. Not because you're angry, but because you're ready. Because that habit, no matter how small, is not neutral. It's reinforcing the very identity you're trying to leave behind. Every time you give into it, you're feeding a pattern. And that pattern is not part of the future you're building. So this is your invitation to draw a hard boundary, not for perfection, for integrity. Choose one habit, just one, the one you keep justifying, the one that says, it's not that bad, or it doesn't really matter. That's the one, because it does matter, not because of what it is, but because of what it means. It means settling. It means staying the same. It means choosing comfort over growth. And if you keep feeding it, you delay your own evolution. Cut it. Not later. Now. Replace it with something that aligns. Not something grand. Something clear. If your first instinct is to grab your phone every morning, replace it with writing one sentence of intention. If your habit is constant complaining, replace it with a daily gratitude check-in. If you keep avoiding the hard tasks, set a timer and do one thing that moves you forward. Don't overcomplicate this. You don't need a list of 20 behaviors to fix. You need to start with the one you already know is holding you back, the one you repeat when no one's watching, the one that keeps your standards low and your self-trust weak. Because here's the truth. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the strength of your habits. And if your habits are casual, your results will always be inconsistent. So this is your moment. One cut, one break in the loop, one declaration that says, this version of me doesn't run the show anymore. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It has to be honest. And it has to be consistent. Every time you choose differently, you're rewiring something deeper. You're not just stopping an action. You're rewriting a belief. You're showing yourself that you can choose again. And that is power. This isn't about being extreme. It's about being deliberate. One habit, removed with intention, can create the space for a completely different life to begin. Because what you remove is just as important as what you build. This is where most people get stuck. They try to add new systems on top of old clutter, new routines on top of unresolved patterns, and they wonder why nothing sticks, why change never feels real. It's because they're trying to grow without letting go. But you're not doing that. Not this week. You're not adding pressure. You're clearing space. You're removing noise. You're making room for something stronger. And it starts by cutting one thing that doesn't belong anymore. So look at your days. Pay attention to the small decisions, the ones that seem harmless, the ones that steal your energy, your time, your respect. You'll feel it when you see it. That internal pause, that knowing. Don't argue with it. Don't justify it. Don't postpone it. Make the cut and make it final. Because the person you're becoming can't carry that habit forward. They don't need it. They don't depend on it. They're not defined by it. You're not trying to be perfect. You're choosing to be clear. This is identity work, not performance, not image, direction. And that direction begins by saying no to what no longer belongs. So today, make that decision. Let it be small. Let it be specific. Let it be quiet. But let it be final. Because every transformation begins with a line you're no longer willing to cross. And this is that line. The way you move tells the world who you are. But more importantly, it tells you who you are. Most people go through the day dragging, head down, shoulders slouched, steps uncertain, breathing shallow. They're not tired from effort. They're tired from disconnection. Disconnected from their mission. Disconnected from their body. Disconnected from who they're trying to become. And it shows. But here's the truth. Your body isn't just a vessel. It's a message. It speaks before you do. It announces your energy long before you open your mouth. And whether you realize it or not, it's either reinforcing your future or keeping you tied to your past. You want to become unrecognizable in a week. Then you can't walk through your day like someone who doesn't know where they're going. You can't move like someone who hasn't made a decision. Because the way you move feeds back into the way you think. Your posture influences your mindset. Your pace influences your confidence. Your breath influences your presence. It's not about working out for hours. It's not about appearance. It's about alignment. When your body and your mission are disconnected, everything feels harder. You lose energy. You lose clarity. You lose conviction. But when your body moves with purpose, you remember who you are. You tap into something most people ignore. Physical integrity. You walk taller. You breathe deeper. You take up space like someone who knows they belong in the room. That's not arrogance. That's clarity. And clarity is contagious. This week, you move like someone who's already living with direction. Not tomorrow. Not when motivation shows up. Now. Not because it's easy. Because it's necessary. So start simple. Get up. Stand straight. Roll your shoulders back. Lift your head. Walk like every step counts. Because it does. Move every day. Not to burn calories, but to build connection. Go outside. Feel your feet hitting the ground. Breathe on purpose. Stretch out the tension you've been carrying for far too long. And do it whether you feel like it or not. You don't need the perfect conditions. You don't need fancy gear. You need a decision. A decision to stop carrying yourself like someone who's uncertain. Because you're not uncertain anymore. You chose this week. You chose to change. Now let your body reflect that choice. There's a reason why people who move with confidence seem to get more done, seem more respected, seem more grounded. It's not because they're better. It's because they've trained their body to follow their values, not their emotions. And that's what you're doing now. You're not waiting to feel powerful. You're practicing it physically. Because when your physical presence upgrades, your identity does too. You speak differently. You make decisions more clearly. You stop shrinking into your old patterns. You rise. Without apology. Movement doesn't just build strength. It builds evidence. It tells your brain, I'm serious. I'm capable. I'm committed. And that repetition, that's what changes you. So don't tell yourself you'll start tomorrow. Start today, even if it's 5 minutes. Even if it's just one walk around the block. Even if it's just standing tall and breathing like you mean it. This isn't about the workout. It's about the message. It's about choosing to show up fully. Not halfway. Not distracted. Not hidden. You're not floating through this week. You're leading it. And leaders don't collapse under pressure. They rise through it. That energy lives in your body. And you activate it when you move. So this week, move like someone who knows where they're headed. Move like someone who made a decision. Move like someone who no longer tolerates playing small. You don't need to feel like it. You need to move anyway. Because the act of movement is the gateway to momentum. And momentum is the engine of identity change. When your energy shifts, your language shifts, your boundaries shift, your standards shift, your life shifts. So make movement your anchor. Make it non-negotiable. Make it part of your new rhythm. Not for others to see, for you to feel, for you to remember that you're not the version of yourself that walked through last week, numb and disconnected. You've stepped into something higher now, and your body knows it. Let it show. You can't think clearly when you're drowning in noise. And most people don't realize how loud their life has become. It's not the volume of the world. It's the volume of everything they've allowed in. Notifications, opinions, distractions disguised as urgency, voices that don't know you, telling you who to be. You wake up, and before you've even looked inward, you've already absorbed a dozen external messages. You open a screen, and just like that, your direction is hijacked. This noise doesn't yell. It seeps in, quietly, constantly, until your own voice feels like an echo, instead of a guide. But clarity doesn't come from doing more. It comes from removing what doesn't belong. And that starts with silence. Not the kind you find on a mountaintop. The kind you create on purpose, even in the middle of your real life. Because silence isn't about absence. It's about alignment. It's about choosing what enters your mind with the same care you would give to what enters your home. Ask yourself, would you let a stranger walk into your house and leave trash on the floor? Then why let so much random noise take up space in your mind? You say you want peace. You say you want direction. You say you want to be the kind of person who leads with purpose. But that won't happen if you keep letting everything in. This week, you take your mind back. You don't do it with willpower. You do it with filters. What you allow in shapes what comes out. And when your inputs are noisy, your thoughts will be too. So here's the shift. You stop consuming passively. You start choosing deliberately. Unfollow the voices that bring confusion. Mute the content that fuels insecurity. Step back from the constant stimulation you've confused with connection. It's not permanent, but it is necessary. You're not cutting yourself off from the world. You're cutting yourself free from everything pulling you in the wrong direction. Silence the outside so you can hear what's inside. When was the last time you sat with a question instead of a scroll? When was the last time you gave yourself space to think without being interrupted by a world addicted to distraction? This isn't about being extreme. It's about being responsible, because your mind is the control center for every decision you make. And if that space is cluttered, no system will fix you. No morning routine will save you. No planner will keep you focused. You need clarity at the root, and clarity begins in silence. So give yourself 1 hour a day. No noise, no screens, no stimulation. Just you, breathing, thinking, writing, moving, listening. Because that voice inside you, it's not gone. It's just been crowded out. But when the noise fades, it gets louder. And what it tells you is worth hearing. You might hear what you've been avoiding. You might see what needs to change. You might remember what actually matters. That's the power of clarity. It's not always comfortable, but it's always honest. And honest awareness is the beginning of real leadership. This is why most people stay stuck. They try to change their habits without changing their inputs. They try to shift their actions without shifting their attention. But if your environment is chaotic, your behavior will follow. So this week, protect your inputs like your life depends on it. Because in a way, it does. Your peace, your energy, your direction, they all flow from the quality of what you allow into your mind. Choose input that builds, not input that numbs. Content that strengthens your purpose, not content that distracts you from it. This is not about perfection. It's about alignment. If you want to become unrecognizable, you have to stop feeding your mind what the old version of you used to crave. Replace noise with clarity. Replace distraction with depth. Replace mindless consumption with intentional reflection. And you'll notice something. You start moving differently, not because the world changed, but because your internal compass got stronger. And that compass? It doesn't scream. It whispers. You just have to be quiet enough to hear it. If you want to change fast, you can't keep waking up and guessing what matters. You can't keep reacting to whatever the day throws at you and call it progress. Living with direction requires planning, not perfection, not rigid control, just clarity. And most people don't have it. They start their days with a full schedule, but an empty mind, busy but not clear, active but not aligned. And then they wonder why the week passes without anything meaningful to show for it. Here's the truth. You don't rise to the level of your potential. You rise to the level of your structure. You can have the best intentions in the world, but without a plan, those intentions evaporate by noon. Planning isn't just about writing tasks on paper. It's about deciding your direction before the world decides it for you. It's about living your values instead of living on autopilot. That's the shift you make this week. You stop leaving your days to chance. You stop hoping you'll find time. You stop relying on memory, mood, or motivation. You start preparing, and you prepare with precision. The night before, take 10 minutes. Review your day. Identify what mattered. Then decide what will matter tomorrow. Don't leave it in your head. Write it down. Name your top 3 priorities. Not 10, not everything. Just the 3 things that actually move your life forward. When the morning comes, don't ask, what should I do today? You already decided. Now you execute. This one habit, the habit of intentional planning, creates more momentum than any productivity trick ever could because it eliminates friction. You don't waste time deciding what matters. You already know. You don't get distracted by the urgent. You've already said yes to the important. And when the unexpected shows up, because it will, you adjust with intention, not panic. This is what leaders do. They don't live by default. They live by design. They don't ask, what do I feel like doing? They ask, what needs to be done to honor who I'm becoming? And that question, that changes everything. When you plan your day with purpose, you walk into it differently. You don't beg for focus. You bring it with you. You don't wait for energy. You direct it. That level of clarity is rare. It's powerful. And it's how you become unrecognizable because you stop chasing more and you start building what matters. So make this your non-negotiable. Every evening, review, decide, write it down. Don't let tomorrow surprise you. Let it before it begins. And if you're tempted to skip it, to say, I'll just figure it out in the morning. Pause and remember this. You don't manage time. You manage decisions. And when you make the right decisions in advance, you create space for the best version of yourself to show up. That's what this is about. Not about control, about ownership, not about being busy, about being deliberate. You don't need more hours in your day. You need fewer distractions, fewer scattered efforts, fewer wasted mornings, where you're chasing instead of choosing. One clear plan puts you back in the driver's seat, and that's where you belong. So tonight, before you go to sleep, look at your day. Ask what moved you forward. Ask what pulled you back. And decide what tomorrow will serve. Write your 3 priorities. Set your wake-up time. Protect the first hour. Block the window for the one thing you've been avoiding. And when you wake up, follow through. You don't need to plan your whole life. Just the next 24 hours. With clarity, with alignment, with intention. Do it again the next night. Then again, 7 times. By the end of the week, you won't just have better results. You'll have a new rhythm, a new identity, a new standard for how you live. That's how fast life changes. Not by accident, but by direction. So take the lead. Plan your day like your purpose depends on it. Because it does. If you keep choosing what's easy, you'll keep becoming someone who avoids growth. And the truth is, most people don't change because they're avoiding exactly what would make them stronger. They don't want resistance. They want relief. They don't want discomfort. They want shortcuts. But every time you avoid discomfort, you reinforce weakness. You protect the very version of you you said you wanted to outgrow, and nothing will change until that pattern breaks. So here's the shift. This week, you stop avoiding the hard thing. You do it on purpose, not because it feels good, but because you've decided. You won't live small anymore. Most people wait to be forced. They wait for pressure, for deadlines, for consequences, to push them into action. But leaders? They don't wait to be cornered. They choose challenge before it chooses them. They lean into what's hard, because they know it's where growth lives. That's what you're doing now. So what have you been avoiding? What task keeps getting pushed to tomorrow? What conversation have you been rehearsing in your mind but refusing to have? What area of your life feels stagnant? Because you've been playing it safe? That's the door. That's the discomfort that transforms. And it's time to walk through it. Pick one thing today. Just one. The thing that makes you hesitate. The thing that triggers resistance. And do it anyway. You don't need to feel brave. You don't need a surge of energy. You need a decision. Because every time you do something difficult, because you chose to, you build something deeper than motivation. You build character. You build trust with yourself. Not because it was easy, but because you proved you could do what needed to be done, even when it wasn't convenient. That's leadership. That's identity. That's freedom. And here's what most people miss. The hard thing gets easier once it becomes familiar. When you teach yourself to lean into challenge instead of running from it, you stop fearing it. You stop hesitating. You stop shrinking. And instead of waiting for circumstances to force you to grow, you grow by choice. So wake up earlier than you feel like. Say what needs to be said. Start the project you've been postponing. Sit with the discomfort you've been numbing. Push your body when your mind says later. You're not punishing yourself. You're strengthening yourself. Because here's the truth. Comfort doesn't change people. Conviction does. And conviction isn't built in easy moments. It's built when you choose the thing that scares you a little and do it anyway. That's what separates those who talk from those who change. So make this part of your week. Every single day, choose one thing that challenges you. Lean into it and finish it. Don't analyze. Don't delay. Don't rationalize your way out of it. Just act. Even if it's imperfect. Even if it's awkward. Even if it's not the outcome you hoped for. Because the outcome isn't the point. The decision is. The real reward is who you become. When you stop backing down, you'll walk differently, speak differently, stand differently. Not because the world got easier, but because you got stronger. The more you lean into challenge, the more you realize you were capable the whole time. You were just waiting to believe it. Let this be the moment. You stop waiting. Let this be the day. You start building resilience. On your own terms. One act of courage at a time. One uncomfortable choice. Done with clarity and intent. Because when discomfort becomes your training ground, everything that once felt impossible starts to feel normal. You become the kind of person who no longer runs from the hard things. You run toward them. And when that shift happens, you become dangerous to the version of you that used to procrastinate, hide, avoid, and settle. That version, it can't follow you anymore. Not where you're going. Not if you keep choosing challenge over comfort, responsibility over avoidance, growth over escape. You want to be unrecognizable in 1 week? Then show up today and do the thing you've been avoiding all year. Not because you feel ready, but because you're done living behind your potential. You've come this far. You've dismantled the old habits, faced the lies your mind kept feeding you, and started to build something real. But there's a piece most people forget, a bridge between who you're becoming and how the world sees you. And that bridge is your words. How you speak, to yourself and to others, reveals more about your identity than you realize. You can be doing the work, meditating, exercising, journaling, but if you keep speaking like the old you, you're anchoring yourself to the past. Words aren't neutral. They build. They reinforce. They solidify. Every time you say, "I'm just lazy. I can never focus. I'm always overwhelmed," you're not just describing your reality. You're prescribing it. You're telling your mind, "This is who we are. Let's act accordingly." Stephen Covey teaches that private victories always precede public ones. But here's the twist. Once you start winning internally, your language must evolve externally. Because your words are the public declaration of your internal alignment. So here's what it looks like in practice. You don't say, "I'm trying to be more disciplined." You say, "I'm a disciplined person building a powerful routine." You don't say, "I hope I stop procrastinating." You say, "I take action even when I don't feel like it." You don't say, "I've always been bad with mornings." You say, "I'm mastering my mornings one step at a time." Speak with direction. Speak with decision. Even if your voice shakes. Even if the old identity whispers back, "That's not who you are." That voice will fade, but only if you stop giving it your microphone. This isn't about pretending. This is about stepping into your truth before the world gives you permission. You don't need anyone's permission to speak from your new identity. You just need the courage to stop repeating the story that kept you small. Let your words reflect the future, not the fear. Speak what aligns, not what appeases. Because if you speak like the person you were, you'll keep living like them. But if you speak like who you're becoming, you accelerate the transformation. From this moment forward, catch yourself. Catch every "I can't," "I always," "I never," and replace it with "I'm learning," "I'm building," "I'm showing up." You've done too much work to sabotage it with sloppy language. So make this your new baseline. Speak as if you're already living your new identity. Because the truth is, you are. Now let your words prove it. You've come this far not just to make progress, but to become someone new. And now, it's time to show up as that version of you. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Now, think about it. Every room you walk into, every person you interact with, every task you approach, are you doing it as the version of you who's growing, or as the one you're trying to leave behind? This is the step where alignment begins to show. Because you're no longer just working on your habits in private. You're living them in public. You're embodying the standards you've been setting behind closed doors. But here's the truth. Showing up as who you're becoming will feel uncomfortable at first. You'll be tempted to shrink back into old patterns, to play small in familiar environments, to default to the role people expect you to play. Don't. This is the moment where everything either locks in or begins to fade. You've been rebuilding your discipline. You've been reshaping your mind. You've been choosing differently. So now, when you walk into that meeting, enter that gym, respond to that text, or sit down to do your work, pause, breathe, then ask yourself, am I acting like the person I'm becoming, or like the one I've already outgrown? When the answer is clear, the action becomes clear. This isn't about faking it. It's about aligning your presence with your principles. There's a difference between pretending to be confident and choosing to act with confidence because you know your values. There's a difference between seeking attention and standing in your worth. One is performance. The other is presence. You've spent enough time performing. Now is the time to embody. The world might not understand your shift at first. Some people might still talk to you like you're the version of yourself from 6 months ago. That's okay. They're reacting to your past, but you're living from your future. Let them catch up later. Your job isn't to prove anything to anyone. Your job is to be consistent with the person you've decided to become. You don't need a new wardrobe to shift your energy. You don't need a perfect morning to act with clarity. You don't need permission to walk taller, speak slower, listen deeper. You just need to be intentional. Stephen Covey teaches that private victories precede public victories. This step is the bridge between the two. You've been doing the work internally. Now the external world needs to meet the new you. This is where habits become identity. You used to avoid eye contact. Now you hold it. You used to hesitate when sharing your ideas. Now you speak up. You used to over-apologize for simply existing. Now you take up space with quiet confidence. You used to accept the roles handed to you. Now you define your place. And it's not just in big moments. It's in the small ones. The way you enter a room. The way you sit with your thoughts. The way you respond when you're challenged. All of it reveals your alignment. Because your presence tells a story. What story are you telling? When you show up as who you're becoming, everything around you starts to recalibrate. The respect you receive, the opportunities you attract, the relationships you nurture, they all begin to reflect the standard you've set. But it's not about controlling others. It's about controlling what you reinforce. If you show up with doubt, the world will mirror that. If you show up with direction, the world will respond. If you walk like someone who knows where they're going, even if the path is unclear, people will begin to treat you like someone with purpose. Not because of magic, but because of consistency. The way you carry yourself teaches the world how to treat you. So carry yourself with the quiet power of someone who has already decided. You're not waiting for the future. You're building it right now, in every interaction, every posture, every tone of voice. This is not a performance. It's a standard, one you chose. So let's be clear. You are not who you were. You are not the version of you that hesitated, minimized, or apologized for wanting more. You're the person who's been building strength in the dark, who's been choosing hard things when no one was watching, who's been showing up every morning when excuses sounded sweeter. Now it's time to reflect that version of you outward. Let your actions speak before your words do. Let your energy arrive before your introduction. Let your integrity lead before your image does. Because the goal isn't to impress the world. The goal is to live in alignment with the person you promised yourself you'd become. And when you do that, truly do that, there's nothing more to prove. Now that you've aligned your inner discipline with your outer presence, it's time to raise the bar one more time. Because tomorrow, we're not just maintaining a new standard. We're committing to it with radical, conscious discipline. Let's go. This is the part most people avoid. The part that feels uncomfortable, inconvenient, and even unfair. But this is the part that separates the ones who only talk about change from the ones who actually live it. You've done the groundwork. You've confronted your old patterns, redefined your identity, and aligned your presence with who you're becoming. Now it's time to anchor it all with discipline. Not the kind that's fueled by guilt or punishment. Not discipline as suffering, but discipline as self-respect, as a form of love, as the proof that you meant what you said to yourself on day one. For the next 7 days, nothing happens by accident. Every choice is a vote for the new identity you've been building. Radical discipline doesn't mean pushing yourself into burnout. It means showing up on purpose, even when your feelings tell you to stop. Let's be clear, motivation won't always be there. That's why you need to choose discipline even when you're tired, uninspired, or misunderstood. Especially then, because every time you keep a promise to yourself, your identity strengthens. And every time you break that promise, even in secret, something inside you gets weaker. Discipline is the bridge between what you want and who you are. And in these next 7 days, that bridge must be walked intentionally. Wake up early, even if your body resists. Move your body, even if it's not perfect. Eat to fuel, not just to satisfy. Say no to distractions, especially when they come dressed as comfort. Focus deeply, even when your mind fights it. Speak less of what you'll do, and do more of what you said. End each day with awareness, not escape. This is radical not because it's extreme, but because it's uncommon. Most people negotiate with themselves every day. They hit snooze, skip steps, make excuses. They say, just for today. And that today becomes their life. But not you. Not now. You've already decided that these next 7 days aren't about survival. They're about standard. They're about building a new normal. One where you don't rely on circumstances to show up fully. You rely on commitment. Stephen Covey said, "The undisciplined are slaves to moods, appetites, and passions." You're not here to be a slave to anything. Not to impulses. Not to laziness. Not to fear. You're here to be the master of your direction. To prove to yourself that you are capable of honoring the path you've chosen. And the only way to do that is to make discipline your default. When you say yes to discipline, you're not just getting results. You're becoming someone who no longer negotiates their standards. And when that happens, everything else starts to fall into place. Confidence grows quietly. Clarity sharpens. Decision-making becomes easier. Respect, from self and others, multiplies. Momentum takes over. But only if you don't break the chain. So here's the challenge. For the next 7 days, track it. Be deliberate. Don't rely on memory or vibes. Write it down. What did you do? Where did you slip? Where did you win? And more importantly, how did you respond when it got hard? Because that's where the real shift happens, not in perfection, but in resilience. Not in doing everything right, but in doing what matters most, no matter what. You'll be tempted. You'll be tested. You'll have moments where the old version of you whispers, "Take the easy way out." But that voice, that's just a ghost, and you're no longer haunted. You've outgrown the cycle of giving up just before the breakthrough. You've stepped into a new season, one that's built on respect, rhythm, and responsibility. And it starts now. 7 days of non-negotiable action. 7 days of showing up when it's inconvenient. 7 days of choosing discomfort over delay. 7 days of becoming undeniable. By the end of this, you won't need to tell anyone you've changed. They'll feel it. And more importantly, you'll feel it. You'll walk differently, think differently, respond differently. Because discipline won't be something you do. It will be who you are. And when discipline becomes identity, you've already won. Now take a breath. One more step. Because tonight, we're not ending this journey. We're sealing it with a ritual that no one sees, but that changes everything. Let's go. Transformation isn't solidified during moments of excitement. It's reinforced in the quiet, repetitive decisions you make when no one is watching, especially at the end of the day. If you've made it to this point, you've shown yourself what's possible when you stop negotiating with your past and start showing up for your future. But what will determine whether you maintain this progress or slowly drift back into old patterns is what you do each night before you close your eyes. Most people collapse into bed, exhausted, distracted, or numbed by screens. But you're not most people anymore. You've spent the last 7 days speaking, moving, and deciding from your new identity. Now, every night must become a sacred checkpoint, a moment where you reaffirm who you are and why this change matters. Before anything else, cut the noise. Silence your notifications. Close the tabs. Dim the lights. Disconnect from everything that pulls your focus away from yourself. This is your time. Then reflect, not as a judge, but as a witness. Ask yourself, did I act in alignment with who I'm becoming? What did I learn about myself today? Where did I win, even in the smallest way? What do I want to carry into tomorrow? This simple act of reflection grounds you. It makes your progress real, tangible. It's not about perfection. It's about awareness. Then declare, out loud or silently, but with conviction, I am not who I was. I am who I choose to be. Speak it as many times as needed until your nervous system believes it, until your mind quiets down, until the voice of doubt is drowned out by the certainty of your decision. End the day by preparing for tomorrow, not with anxiety, but with intention. Lay out your clothes. Choose your focus. Set a tiny but clear action that your future self will thank you for. This is the ritual that separates dreamers from doers. It's not dramatic. It's not glamorous. But it's sacred. And sacred things aren't skipped. Let the last voice you hear tonight be your own. Let the last energy you feel be alignment, not regret. Because people don't change by accident. They change by design. You designed your transformation. You started speaking from your future. You began showing up as the version of you that doesn't back down. And now, you close each day not in exhaustion, but in clarity. Every ending is also a beginning. Every night, a silent promise. You are not waiting for life to change. You are becoming the change. You don't need another year. You needed a decision. And you made it. From here on out, this version of you, disciplined, aware, aligned, is the only one who goes to bed at night. And the only one who wakes up tomorrow. The work continues. But now, it's your identity that leads the way.